Welcome to the local players. This is the very first episode of this Zoom show we're putting together. We're going to try to give it a go, see how it goes. If you're watching this, you probably know who I am, but I'll introduce myself again. I'm Adam Hunsucker, and this is Cory Diaz. We comprise the few, the proud of the New Star sports staff. What is left of us, but anyway, this is about the second or third time we've attempted to do the intro because it's not really as easy as others make it look, but we're here and that's what's important. Cory, what's going on?
Not much, man. Just got done eating a little Sunday brunch, so I'm fueled up and I'm ready to go. We obviously have some interesting things to discuss, and I think that's kind of when you and I have been talking about this, Adam. I think that's why we kind of wanted to jump into doing something like this because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of, interesting storylines around really every facet of what we cover, here in Northeast Louisiana. And I think this is an avenue for us to not only engage more viewers and potential readers, but also it's a way to kind of get our opinions out on things. And I think people will be interested. And as we get going along with this, I think this could be an avenue for people to come and spend a little time and get them utmost information about what we've got going on in our area. So I'm excited about this. I think we have the opportunity here to provide some really useful information and some really useful takes for folks that follow our stuff.
I think so too. And kind of what's funny is, as Cory and I were talking about putting this thing together, we basically decided if we were going to do it, it had to be this week because of just all the litany of things, as you can say, that are going on in our area sports-wise. But just to kind of give you a rundown of what this is, like I said, we came up with the title this morning on the fly, which I'm kind of proud of. This Zoom program is called The Local Players, and it is just that. It is Cory and I breaking down what's going on here in Northeast Louisiana with the teams we cover and follow. And that's really going to be the spine of this thing is ULM, Louisiana Tech, Grambling, and the preps. So when we call it the local players, we say that for a reason because it's going to be local. Now, can't promise you there will not be some tangents thrown in every now and then. We can get off on something else, which is quite easy to do, but that's our starting point. We have a base, and we're going to build from there, and we'll see how this thing goes. We hope you all will enjoy it. We're looking for some interaction, just from building a YouTube channel, which we have. Check out New Star Sports; these will be uploaded on the New Star Sports YouTube channel. And with that comes an email address because Gmail makes you do that. So you can also feedback, concerns. We'll even read your questions on future shows if you send them to us at newstarsports@gmail.com. New Star Sports is all one word. So we will take it from there. But first,
no question is off limits.
Well, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I know how some of you think. I can tell what you're thinking before you even say it because the ears they go. We can see them. You in the kitchen, Cory? Where are you at?
Yeah, man, I'm in my kitchen. My house is it's kind of one long. You got right when you walk in the side door, you got a kitchen. You got a little kitchenette area where I have my dining room table, which is where I'm sitting at, and then open-ended into the common area. So, I'm in the kitchen. You can see my trusty bottle opener there. Got that from Gulf Shores, Alabama several years ago. Has not failed me yet. So those are also some Subway coupons. Got those in the circulars this past week. So looking to eat some sandwiches at some point.
Coupons, God bless Gannett. But anyway, I'm also sitting in my kitchen, actually at my kitchen table, and just I guess I should put a disclaimer on this. If you happen to see a woman or a 7-year-old child wander by this screen, well, that's just the price you pay for being a domesticated man. Maybe that's something we'll discuss on a future show. But I think we ought to lead this thing off. We had some honest-to-God actual college football in our area Saturday when a game I watched and covered. There are 2 stories about it at thenewstar.com, which you can go read. Cory, did you catch ULM Army?
I honestly speaking, did not catch all of it because I think we all knew what
Well, you tuned out after the fake punt, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah, we all
That was the line of demarcation for a lot of folks.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think, I mean, we all knew what the Warhawks are going to be in for, right? Going up to West Point and, you know, playing a team that last week looked like they were in mid-season form against Middle Tennessee State. So, you know, and with everything, in which we'll dive a little more into this, I mean, everything that ULM had been battling for the last 2.5, 3 weeks, I mean, them getting to the point of actually suiting up and playing a football game was almost kind of a moral victory in a way. And, you know, Adam, so kind of take off with that. I mean, you know, when you deal with having to shut down your fall camp practice for several days and then coming back and you're I think they were less than 2 weeks away, right, from playing this game. I mean, it was a tall order to go up there and, you know, really sort of put the best type of product out that Coach V and his guys felt like they wanted to.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I went into this thing after what has transpired on the Bayou the past 3 weeks, thinking this was going to be the most one-sided military victory since Panama. And, you know, look, and the reason I came to this conclusion is let's just read down the list of these things that ULM's been dealing with, okay? We go back to August 21st, and, you know, that week, which also happened to be the first week students are back on campus, we get not just an uptick, but a outbreak in coronavirus cases within the program. You know, not 9 confirmed. There were more than that. I can tell you that. I can't give you the official number because they're not sharing that with us, which I kind of understand. There's some HIPAA stuff involved there. So they shut it down. All football activities, practice, lifting weights, meetings, all of it done. And, you know, and we go around to the next week, and that Wednesday rolls around. They're able to actually get back in the weight room and lift and do some conditioning. And then what happens that very next day? That awful woman named Hurricane Laura. And that left all, you know, I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head. Let's just say thousands of us were without power for at least a day. Yes. And up at ULM, they didn't get power back until Saturday. So you throw those two things together, and you're looking at a 10-day layoff before they can even start practice. You know, they got back going the next week on a Monday and Tuesday and didn't put the pads on until Wednesday. And then what else rolls around Wednesday? Well, Mike Collins, the defensive coordinator, resigns. And that's less than 2 weeks from kickoff. So when you combined all these things together, the fact that they went to West Point and showed any signs of being a functional football team, which they did, and you consider, you know, that getting back to practice from a conditioning standpoint, you're basically starting almost from square one. He's trying to be in shape to play the game. For them to play as hard as they did and, you know, to have that kind of effort, and really up until you know, late in the first half, and then up until that just mean backbreaker of a fake punt in the third quarter, they were right there in that game. It was no more than a 2-score game. So
yeah, it was 17-7, right? It was 17-7 at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it was 17-7, and really it could have been closer. You go back to ULM's last drive in the second quarter. There was that you know, a few I guess you say clock management issues that you know, gave Army the ball back with some time. They were actually able to complete a pass. I believe it was their first completed pass of the game, and get in there to kick a field goal. Missed the first attempt, but had the errant timeout. See, I told you there'd be a lady walking around in here. And you know, that they blocked the kick, but that timeout gave Army another chance, and they, you know, made the second one to make it 17-7. So, I mean, I don't know how you can consider everything that went on and look at the kind of effort they gave and not feel any way but good about it.
Sure. You know, I know you and I talked about it the night that it went down, but, you know, there's going to be a lot of teams within the sport of college football this year that are going to have to navigate and deal with COVID-19 outbreaks within their football team and how they sort of respond and react to it. So what ULM and what Louisiana Tech is currently dealing with too, it's not a misnomer. You know, this is going to be widespread throughout the entire country. It's just going to be, you know, it's all about adapting and adjusting. But to me, I always kind of felt like going into yesterday for ULM, the biggest thing for them was, you know, you lost your defensive coordinator, you know, just a few days before kickoff. How do you from a defensive player standpoint, and even within maybe the coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball, how do you sort of recollect yourself, that close to kickoff and try to formulate a game plan that you feel comfortable enough with to be able to put your guys in the best position to be successful. And to me, that was one of the things that stuck out. And then not only do you lose your defensive coordinator, but hey, by the way, good luck stopping the triple option that Army runs better than anyone. So that's a scheme offensively that I know it's been around since the dawn of the sport, but it's still the hardest thing to stop. So, so many of the chips were stacked against ULM, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that, them only holding them to 37 points, like you said. It sounds bad. You lost by 30, but when you factor in everything, it was respectable.
Yeah, definitely. And not just the triple, but Army was running triple with tempo. That's like the meanest damn thing ever. They just when they can tell you're on the ropes, they're going to put the foot on the gas and get up there and go. So, I think you're right about a lot of that. And as far as the game plan goes, just kind of some inside baseball things in there. People may not understand how this works, but a lot of times when it's not just the coordinator that's solely putting the game plan together. It's really a collaborative effort on the staff. And before Mike had resigned, they had all the breakdowns and everything done. So they had a plan of how they wanted to do. Obviously, with Scott Stoker taking over the defensive coordinator, it changed a little bit. He has a way of doing things, and his philosophy and Mike's philosophy are similar. But each coach has their own different way they like to do it, even if schematically it is very similar.
Sure.
But, when you look at the actual football game of it, and actually before we get to that, not to mention too, we're talking about the litany of issues facing ULM. That football team's still living in a hotel right now because the on-campus dorm, the new dorm at ULM that's being built is still not done. So those guys are shacking it up out by the mall, the ones that live on campus. So,
wow.
Like I said, just a litany of things. But, the actual game, you look at the numbers, ULM gave up 436 yards rushing, which, it's a triple option team so those big numbers would be expected. Probably the more alarming thing is offensively, because there was effort defensively, not that there wasn't on offense, just offense is more about timing and execution. I haven't had enough time to practice that, really, to get that down. I thought it showed up front.
Yeah.
I think eventually that offensive line is going to be fine with 3 new starters, but they need some time to kind of gel, and that's one of the things I was going to ask V about tomorrow. Or I guess if this is being, you all will see this on Monday, I will have already asked him. So this is some Back to the Future stuff. But how that lack of practice time really affected the O-line and everything. They only ran 44 plays.
Right.
The entire game. You just the not staying on the field, and those are things we'll see going forward if they'll improve with more practice time. Not to mention 3 new starters in the offensive line, 14 new starters total. Now some of that was some guys being out. And some of that could or could not have been COVID related because, again, with HIPAA, they're not telling us all that. But so just know that going forward, that if there's a player in the quarantine or protocol, ULM's not going to confirm that. But speaking of which, that's probably something you were dealing with right now, my friend, because you were supposed to be covering a football game this weekend, but that did not happen.
No, it did not happen. I was looking forward to being in Waco, Texas this past weekend, and getting to cover the opener yesterday morning. Louisiana Tech supposed to play Baylor, and and I think part of the reason why I think there was a lot of excitement about this game leading up to it because so many pieces had to fall in place, right? For this game to even get to the point where it was going to happen, right? There were so many other game cancellations and postponements. Louisiana Tech had to wait for almost 2 full weeks to figure out whether or not Baylor was it was almost like The Bachelor in a way, right? It's like they finally handed Louisiana Tech the rose. Like, Louisiana Tech, will they accept this rose and be our one non-conference opponent? And, that's another thing too. Baylor has now scheduled Houston to play this coming weekend. So I do not believe that the Louisiana Tech Baylor game will happen in the 2020 season. It's going to
looking good.
It appears that it's going to be at the earliest 2021, or it's going to be later. So, but yeah, we get to the point where, the last 350 administered COVID-19 tests prior to the arrival of Hurricane Laura, the team only had one positive, within the team. And there were, I believe there was as small of an amount of 8 guys that were also out due to contact trace off of that one positive. So there's roughly 9 to 10 guys missing practice, right before Hurricane Laura hit, and then in the immediate aftermath of it. And then once you had the displacement of roughly 50 guys on the football team, all those guys being upperclassmen, because they all live off campus, and fortunately for the university over in Ruston is they never lost power. And so,
wait, they never lost power?
No,
I
have no idea how it happened.
Ronnie Walker, mayor of Ruston, was telling us 95% of the electrical grid got knocked out. I guess Tech's the 5%.
Yeah, I guess the university over there was the 5% of their electrical grid, because the university did not lose power, and so your younger guys and your freshmen who are living on campus in dorms, these younger guys or the older guys would either go to younger teammates' dormitories and have to stay for extended period of time, or other friends that lived off campus that did fortunately have power, they had to displace to their places, and then the next thing you know, boom, 36 football players test positive for COVID-19, and and then with contact tracing, I think you added another 13 or 14 guys on top of that. And Tuesday night, after they got all the numbers and looked at the depth chart, as Skip said, he's looking down, and he's got 47 players eligible to play against a Power 5 opponent to open the season, and 9 of those guys were walk-ons.
Not good, coach.
Yeah, not good, coach. So 38 scholarship players, and you're sitting there, you're looking at the depth chart, and you're thinking to yourself, there's no way in hell we're going to be able to do this. I mean, there's just absolutely no way. So that's when Skip got on the phone with Tommy. Tommy then calls Mac out at Baylor, the athletic director there, Mac Rhodes, and obviously from the Baylor side, they were understanding of the situation and said, well, of course we have to postpone this game, because we don't want to put our kids in jeopardy either of getting in a situation where we might could have an outbreak ourselves. So, and to your point a second ago, talking about ULM, we're gonna get, kind of before, during fall camp, we had been getting weekly updates on numbers of how many tests had been administered, number of positives, number of student athletes that had to be quarantined, whether it be for positives or for contact trace. I don't think we're going to be getting those numbers anymore from Louisiana.
Probably not.
So we're not going to be getting those numbers anymore. But see, we knew that had been said before, this outbreak occurred within the football team. So what you do now is that I do know, and this is a little bit of save this for this this show that we're doing and we're putting together. But
exclusive content.
I'm sorry.
I said exclusive content.
Yeah, a little exclusive. Did speak with some sources yesterday, and they did say that they will be back out on the practice field tonight, Sunday night. And I did not get an exact number of how many players they were able to get back, but the quote that I have is, we are moving in the right direction. So, so as it relates to next weekend, trying to start the season in Hattiesburg against Southern Miss, I still think it's up in the air, but if we are indeed, quote unquote, moving in the right direction, then, if they get close to 70 guys back eligible to play before Saturday, Louisiana Tech will be playing, because you get, for your travel roster, your max is 70 anyway. So if they get, I would even say if they have 60 kids eligible to play, I think they'll play in Hattiesburg this weekend. So we're crossing our fingers. We're, because you don't know, because this is new to everyone, right? And how do you sort of adjust? How do you adjust and adapt to it? What are you currently doing, and is what you currently doing not necessarily being as the most effective way to keep the numbers down? What else do you try? And I think, Louisiana Tech and some of these other schools that have had to postpone games and shut down, like Memphis, they've shut down their football activities.
Don't get on a party bus.
Just
don't do it.
As appealing as that is right now.
Personal disclosure, I am from the great state of Tennessee, although where I hail from is in the complete opposite direction of Memphis. But just seeing some of these pictures coming out of Memphis and Nashville since the pandemic's going on, you don't want to get on all these buses. I'm telling you, just listen. In fact, if you really want something that's probably a little too graphic for this program, but Google Art House Party Nashville, and you will see exactly what I'm talking about.
All right, let me write that down. Art House Party Nashville. We'll Google that when we're done.
You'll text me about it later. I'm calling it now. But before we get we'll get into Southern Miss and just what a peach of a situation that is right now. But kind of looking back on the weekend, as much as I would have loved to have seen this game, but if you look at it from a Louisiana Tech perspective, might have been smart on their part not to schedule the Raging Cajuns after this weekend, because they went up to Ames and they put it on that behind like good.
Yeah.
The Sun Belt's been the talk of the weekend, going 3-0 against the Big 12. But kind of when you break all those down, of course, the first two that come to mind were played at the same time. That was the Cajuns and Iowa State, and Arkansas State and Kansas State. I mean, you look at Arkansas State beating Kansas State, that was, a back and forth game between two teams, and, Arkansas State made enough plays at the end, more plays at the end to win it, where, the Cajuns just dominated a Power 5 team is what they did. There was no ifs, ands, and buts about who was superior in that game, which, once again, I mean, we thought it was last year, but I think definitely this year, Billy Napier's about to be so paid here in a few months.
Yeah. I don't see his stay in Lafayette lasting much longer. I think he, with the win yesterday, I mean, he had to have moved at the top of the list on a multitude of coaching searching. Any list that any school might have an opening, like he's got to be at or near the top of the list. I mean, it was just really an impressive performance, and all the way through. Because I was watching that game and it was 0-0 after the first quarter, and I just had this feeling after the first quarter, just one quarter into it, I said, they may win this game. Because I thought defensively, I thought they had their game plan couldn't have been any better,
No.
And offensively, they were hitting some big plays in that first quarter, but then their drives would stall out. And I was like, well, if they can just put the drives together and finish them, they'll be able to run away with this. And then Iowa State scores first, but then they come right back and they return the ensuing kickoff back 90. I think it was 95 yards for a touchdown. And to me, that was the turning point, right? It was okay. While we are playing well, we're losing. How do we respond? How do we answer? And with the immediate answer like that, I don't think Iowa State was anticipating that. It was almost kind of the backbreaker in a way, and it happened so early in the game, and that you hope that Matt Campbell, I think that's his name, the Iowa State coach. You think you can get your guys in the locker room at halftime and say, look, hey, let's take a deep breath here. Let's not let that one play, derail what we're trying to do here. Get your guys recollected mentally and have them get them refocused and go back out there and play a strong second half. And they did not recover from that kickoff return. And from then on, it was all Louisiana Lafayette,
No, it was. And you probably did not do this, but I did. I actually stayed up late and watched the first half of Kansas and Coastal Carolina, because
I made it through the whole game.
What, did you watch it?
I made it through the whole game.
Well, you're doing better than me then. You tell me what you thought, because it was funny. It almost reminded me, because I guess this is another one of those of course you did moments, but a couple of years ago when Nicholls State beat Kansas, I watched that game too. I was at a buddy's house who's from down that way, is a Nicholls grad, and we had it on, and my jaw hit the floor because Nicholls had better players than Kansas. An FCS team had better players than the Power 5 school. And then watching that Coastal Carolina game last night, I had the same feeling. Coastal had better players.
Yeah.
And it speaks really to just the mess that Kansas program has been for, over a decade now. Since
I think it's going on 12 years, right? Since
they ran off Mark Mangino, but that's a topic for another day. But
I wonder what that guy's doing now.
If it nothing, any coach that I guess he would have gotten fired way before the days of buyouts. I'm sure he's still got something on the back end, but not quite like what you see today. But in today's context, any coach that is fired and is doing anything other than nothing in collecting those buyout checks, you're doing life wrong. There's no reason for it to be that hard. But going forward, and really, it wasn't just those games. You look at the Sun Belt as a whole this weekend. South Alabama jumped on Tulane in South Alabama's new stadium that opened up, and they got to be kicking themselves for that one, for letting that one get away and end up losing. But they look improved. Texas State, another tough loss for them. They almost knock off SMU. Then they lose to UTSA in overtime. They're coming to Malone Stadium next weekend. So you're looking at two other improved Sun Belt teams, and I'm really curious to see how Texas State and ULM match up. I think it's an interesting game. I'll probably write about this week, just from a morale standpoint, because ULM, they need something good to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, even though they felt good about their performance in Army, it was still a 37-7 loss, and they need something good out of that to come forward. And beating Texas State at home would be that. But at the same time, it's I guess what you would call a proof of concept that things are heading in the right direction, and we practice a little bit more and we are improving. Now if Texas State beats them, and this would be a Texas State team ULM I think is one of the last 4 against, then that's a bit of a gut punch going forward. So it's a really interesting home opener for sure.
Well, and here's something too about Texas State is that, I mean, they played without the McBride kid at quarterback because he was out due to COVID. And I'm not sure if it was a positive test or if it was contact trace, but he didn't play yesterday.
No, it's like against SMU, they didn't have a single tight end stood it up.
Yeah.
They're 4 wide receivers, 10 personnel the entire game.
Yeah, so just imagine if they could get all of their guys back healthy at once and get them all out on the field. How scary good is that team?
Well, it could be, depending on what they can do offensively. Now, even though they gave up 48 last weekend, they do have some kids on defense that can play. Yeah. As big of a disaster as Everett Withers was there, he left them with some good Sun Belt level defensive talent. So I think you've seen that when they've played ULM the past 2 years. Those games ULM won, they were both low scoring games.
Yeah.
They had an answer for Caleb Evans and those guys, and their offense was actually probably the ULM played better against that offense than anyone in the country the past 2 years, honestly. But that's the other thing I'm curious to see. I will be covering a Real Deal Holyfield live in the press box football game next Saturday, and that's going to be interesting on a whole lot of levels. Are you going to try to go to Hattiesburg?
The people who get paid more than me and are above my head will be making that decision. Haven't been told one way or the other what the final decision on that is. But certainly will be, if I'm not there in person, we'll certainly be covering the game virtually as we do from time to time. It kind of like you were just mentioning there, with the kind of the interesting storylines heading into this weekend for ULM, for Louisiana Tech. I mean, the obvious, really big, interesting storyline heading into this is that you're playing a 30-year-old interim head coach playing against him. What do you know about him? What's the mood within the Southern Miss football program right now that Jay Hobson has resigned. After one game.
He resigned. Now you go pull up that statement, Ray. That sounds like a coach who looked at his AD and said, "All right, y'all can have it."
Yeah. What's the mood? What's the mood in the locker room right now over there in Hattiesburg? Your coach walks out after one game in a pandemic-riddled season where you think that pretty much everyone on all sides would go into this and basically say, well, this is a scratch year, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to have struggles. We're never going to have to deal with stuff that, we hadn't really foreseen. It's going to be a lot of unexpected and a lot of curveballs during this football season. But yeah, to your point, I think there seemed to have been a lot of things going on behind the scenes at Southern Miss that kind of led Jay to say, you know what? I don't know if I'm in it, here anymore. Maybe I need to give myself the rest of this year and then maybe try to find a coordinator position somewhere else, or, we don't really know what's going on, inside his brain. But to your point, his release, his statement in the release didn't lend itself to a happy separation. I think it was kind of both sides were probably fed up a little bit. So
yeah, I think so too. And just having a couple of connections. What do we got there? What?
No, see
is that magic? But anyway, like I said earlier, there are going to be some tangents in these shows, so get ready. But look back to the Southern Miss situation. Just from knowing a couple people on the inside that program, you hit the nail on the head. There was definitely a disconnect between Jay Hobson and the administration. It goes back to a couple years ago when Jay tried to hire Art Briles as his offensive coordinator and did not tell the president or anyone about it. So that's always a good way to foster some
a good coach
and a good working relationship. And then you've got an athletic director in Jeremy McClain who came from Troy. He did not hire Jay Hobson. So I would imagine that guy is the one that's kind of caught in the middle of both between his boss, the president, and his football coach. So It was just an untenable situation. And I agree with you. I think when you look at what every program is facing we use either phrase in times like these, we've both written that ad nauseum since March. But, in my opinion, at least, honestly, every coach in America should get a mulligan this year.
Yeah.
But you look at Jay and Jay's decision to walk away. You also got to factor in there too that Southern Miss had a lot of kids leave, not just opt out because of COVID, but opt out and then get in the portal.
Yeah.
So there was some unrest, and I don't want to use that as a blanket term because people may not realize, but a locker room is as fragile as it gets. There's locker rooms that are straight up awful, and a team can be winning. It's just how precarious that whole thing is. But I think this will probably end up being the best for both parties. And it's really interesting to me that Southern Miss is the first job open and just kind of what they do, because I think when you look about it, you can make the argument that no program has been hurt more by conference realignment than Southern Miss.
Right.
Because, as Cory, I was born in '85, you're about my age, and, coming through growing up watching college football in the 90s, you don't want any parts of Southern Miss. They were not in the SEC, they were not in the ACC or the Big 12, but they were, a very representative, independent, and then Conference USA program. Talking, Brett Favre, Adelius Thomas, Patrick Surtain, people like that. And when you scheduled them, it was a war. You look at those years they were beating Alabama and teams like that, but they have since realignment, although they've seen their peers, the teams they were having to line up and beat to win championships. Many of those have moved on to the American or to the Power Five. And Southern Miss is kind of stuck there in this in this Conference USA existence.
Almost like purgatory in a way.
Well, kind of. And Jay Hobson was the lowest paid coach of Conference USA. I don't know about their athletic budget, but I would imagine it's right there with Tech near the bottom of the league.
Yes. I think Tech's been 14th and Southern Miss has been 13th.
Yeah, so we're running neck and neck there. And really, and I know it's, I guess this is some media commentary, but in our profession, whenever the coach gets fired of a team we cover, one of the first things we do is we put lists together because y'all love lists. And y'all may bitch about lists, but we would not write lists if you all didn't like reading them. That's kind of how this works.
Listicles. We want more listicles.
That's exactly right. And nothing expires click and false optimism and spewed venom and subscriptions like a good old-fashioned coaching search. So one of the things we do is we're going to give you that list of candidates. Now, some are more factual than others. Well, maybe not factual. It's not the resume. Some of us actually called and discussed candidates or with people if they would be interested in the job. So some of these are, I guess, more reliable than others, which I got tickled. I think it was Brett McMurphy over at Stadium, throwing out Larry Fedora and Todd Monken, two of the three previous Southern Miss coaches. It's like, if you talk to me, people in Hattiesburg, Larry Fedora is not real well thought of there. And and then you look at Todd Monken. He left right before signing day and left them in a bind. So that's not really, something anybody remembers fondly either, although Todd Monken's a damn good football coach. I think you're about to see that with Georgia's offense this year. So really, before you even discuss candidates, we need to know what Southern Miss's price range is. Are they going to pony up and pay more than they paid Jay Hobson? Usually, from past experience, they're going to have to, because whenever you fire the coach, you have to do some things to make your job more attractive than it was before you fired the coach. Yeah. And, with their resources, are they going to be able to do this while dealing with everything that's going on with COVID and the lost revenue there?
Yeah, I mean, because we still don't know at this point, although we're 6 months into this. I mean, what are the complete and total ramifications of shortened spring seasons and extra eligibility for student athletes, and what is the full and total ramification financially on these athletic budgets and athletic departments on having to deal with this? And we probably really won't know until maybe after this fiscal year ends, which will be June 30th, so we're still 9 months away from that. But yeah, I have heard from some people over in Hattiesburg that, they will try to really generate the boosters, right? I think, they're going to try to generate a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of excitement within there, so they can try to kick more money in toward, their next head coach. So I do anticipate, them being able to pay a little bit more money than what Hobson was getting. But who you get though, because again, we go back to the point of, every program this year, should get a mulligan, right? So, I mean, even if you have, these schools that probably in a normal sense would have gone into this year thinking, oh, we're a 7 to 8 win team, and then they turn around, they maybe win 3 games this year. I don't think any athletic director is going to say, you got to go, so I don't think that's the most interesting thing to me about this Southern Miss coaching search is, I mean, what is the actual pool of candidates going to look like for them?
Right. Or did they just hope and pray that Scotty Walden's the golden child?
Who knows? I mean, you know what? I mean, maybe this guy does come in and look, let's be honest, right? Last weekend, your home opener, your season opener, you got South Alabama coming in, which a lot of us probably didn't anticipate, the type of start to the year that they've had so far. Really should be sitting here 2-0 right now. I mean, I don't even think probably folks inside the Southern Miss football program thought that, the Jaguars were going to come in and play as well as they did. But, I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be this really incredible leap of improvement in the guy that you hire, whoever it ultimately ends up being, that's going to really generate a whole lot of buzz and enthusiasm around Hattiesburg, because I don't have a whole lot of confidence in there being just a stacked pool of candidates, because I don't think a lot of coordinators this year after this football season will be on the move too, because again I think we're having a game plan this week, but we're without 4 defensive starters. Like I don't think a head coach is going to look at his defensive coordinator and say, man, we lost that game when we shouldn't have. It was like, oh, well, coach, we were without half of our starters on defense. Like, can you maybe cut me some slack here? I think there's going to be a lot of that this year. I think there's going to be a lot of leeway. So, I'm really interested to see where Southern Miss is going to go with this and what's going to be available for them. Can they hire somebody that's going to make the locals happy there? I'm really interested to see.
Or do the locals understand, what their plight is now? The divide between, in a way, it reminds me of East Carolina in a way. Mm-hmm. East Carolina has the same repetition as Southern Miss. They moved on to the American, but they were in Conference USA for a long time. And those were the 2 Giant Slayer programs. And now the divide between them and the Giants is bigger than it's ever been. So you look at it from that angle. I don't know what their I'd be curious what their expectations are amongst the fine folks of Hattiesburg. But let's So let's
Well,
assume.
you can't say this, and this will be the last thing I say about it. You can't say that they've got the best jump start on their coaching search than any other program in the country right now. So if there's one silver lining, maybe that's it. You know, we've got several weeks ahead of any other potential program that could be looking for another head coach this year.
All right. Well, let's say there's football played at the Rock on Saturday. What are your expectations for Tech? Is it because I see it as very similar to ULM, depending on their numbers and how bad they were. Obviously, they were bad enough to where they'd have to stop. But now you're looking at that staff and Skip Holtz trying to get the conditioning piece back going and getting those guys into some formative level of shape so they can go out and compete.
Yeah, to be kind of like we said at the top, getting to play the game on Saturday, I think would in a weird way be a moral victory. What to expect. The offensive line. I don't think there's been more than two consecutive practices during fall camp where Louisiana Tech has been able to dress all 5 of their starting offensive linemen at the same time. There's been a lot of upheaval up front across the offensive line. Now you've had your skill guys, Justin Henderson at running back, Adrian Hardy, Isaiah Graham out wide, CJ Powell, Smoke Harris on the inside. You've had some continuity with the quarterbacks. I do know that none of the quarterbacks were affected in the COVID-19 outbreak, so all the quarterbacks have been healthy from the jump. So you're not having to sort of re-usher them back into the swing of things. I do think maybe in the passing game and in the run game, there can be some effectiveness there, but it's really going to be predicated on how conditioned, how in shape, and how ready a lot of your guys up front on the offensive line are to go out and play 60, 70, 80 snaps. And then not only are you dealing with the COVID-19 outbreak within the football program, but when you look at the defense side of the ball, I mean, you are going to be starting a lot of young guys anyway.
And weren't they changing scheme? Weren't they going back to a 4-man front?
Yeah, they're going back to a 4-3 base. But I would imagine that against a team like Southern Miss that you're probably going to see a lot of 4-2-5. There's probably going to be a lot of dime, a lot of nickel out there, and so. But that will kind of help them though, because you've got the Khalil Ladlers who've come in and transferred from other FBS programs who are grad transfers who will be able to come in and make an immediate impact for the defense, which is why they went out and got those kind of guys, because Skip and his defensive staff knew that they needed, guys like that who have played and been around college football for several years, because you can't run out 7, redshirt freshmen, starting all of them at the same time. That would be way too much to handle. But yeah, to be honest with you, I don't know what to expect. I kind of didn't really know what to expect. It had the Baylor game would have happened last weekend, but that was mainly on the defense side of the ball. How quickly can the defense gel? What's it going to look like? Offensively, with a new quarterback, whether it be Aaron Allen or Luke Anthony, what's their timing like with their receivers? What will be the game plan be, especially at the beginning of the game? Does Skip elect to, try to get the ball out of their hands quickly, get them in a rhythm, see how they can, really sort of answer a lot of questions from the start. They did that last year, really the last 2 big Power 5 teams that they had played, Texas at the beginning of last year, and then 2018 down in Death Valley at LSU, they had Jamar Smith throw the ball a lot early, just to get him in a rhythm, get him in the game, get the juices flowing. And I do imagine that they'll probably, if they're able to play this weekend, they'll probably do the same with whichever quarterback ends up getting the start. Now, I do think both of them will play. I think both of them will get significant and meaningful snaps, because I still think that I don't think the quarterback situation is completely settled yet, because both Aaron and Luke have had really strong camps. And I do think they're neck and neck. I go to one practice and I think it's going to be this kid that's going to end up being the starting quarterback. And then I'll go out the next day and watch practice and I'll say, man, the other kid had the better practice today. And so It's gonna be interesting. There's just a ton of questions, and like normal questions, not even pertaining to the COVID-19 stuff. It's like you have the questions surrounding the off-field stuff, but there's so many questions on the field that you wonder what's going to happen. But to maybe this is a lucky thing for them. Their first potential game could be against a team that's got a ton of questions itself.
Yeah, but both these folks have problems.
Yeah.
I think if you look at it that way, I actually, I see a lot of parallels in Tech and ULM, not just with the COVID situation, but if you look at it in many ways, both of these teams were going through transition years.
Yeah.
I mean, so you look at the guys they lost. I mean, Tech's replacing Jamar Smith at quarterback. ULM's is replacing Caleb Evans. And you just kind of start there, and the amount of guys they've lost that have played a lot of football. And you use use the Army game as sort of a rubric. I think when you hit on with the offensive line and the lack of continuity there, that's going to be an issue, because that was definitely an issue for the Warhawks up at West Point. And I think those are, for both teams, those are one that will get worked out as more snaps, more reps, things like that. And then really, I think special teams could be an issue too. Those things you have in practice, they certainly were for ULM. They had a punt blocked, had a field goal blocked, and every time, and it kind of goes back to the issue up front. Every time they punted, it looked like it was about to get blocked. It was kind of a Russian roulette situation. But
yeah.
Looking at that, I think that's probably, if that game's played, that's probably what we're in store for. There is and that's another fun thing that's been funny about some of the reaction around town to the ULM game. People acting pretend like COVID's an excuse and they still lost and all this, that, and the other. It's like, well, do y'all understand that? I mean, there's this thing called practice. Regardless of what Allen Iverson says, practice is really important, because you're not good at anything unless you do it over and over again, and practice it. So I don't know how you expect a team to be ready to go and to be at peak when they haven't practiced. And
right.
That's a problem they're gonna have to face this week anyway. But before we get out,
it kind of leads us into kind of what we're going to talk about next for a couple minutes is high school football.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Before we get out of here, we probably should touch on the LHSAA, shouldn't we? That's been fun.
Yeah, I guess one of the big questions is how long do football players need to condition themselves from a physical standpoint, right? Of being able to go a full season, taking hits and things of that nature. Which, I mean, I know these high schools have been going out doing non-contact 7-on-7s and conditioning and things of that nature, but I mean, they're really just now starting full padded practices. Are these kids going to be ready to take 15 hits a game?
Well, and that started Thursday with full contact and full go. And the original, that kind of the original target was 21 days, that they needed a full 3 weeks of hitting in pads to be ready to go. But Dr. Greg Stewart over at Tulane, who's part of the LHSAA's medical advisory team, also with the American Athletic Conference as well. He's been involved with coronavirus both on the collegiate and prep levels. He's comfortable with 10 to 14 days, just of hitting, just to get those soft tissue deals, get over that.
So he's a Jim Harbaugh type.
Perhaps. I mean, that's been.
Does he wear Dockers?
He does not wear Dockers that I am aware. But if you saw the nonsense coming out of New Orleans, his name's kind of been bantered about lately. And God bless you if you're a high school coach down there. But anyway, so I mean, that's what they're going to need to get going. And in fact, and I thought that was kind of funny, because not only did the LHSA make the decision to play football, but they kind of doubled down on it. Said we're going to go October 8th. No, we go on October 1st now. So I mean, we are literally, you and I, our last Friday after this coming Friday. We do not have any more Fridays off until probably January, which is cool. But it's just crazy how this thing has gone. And for people that have followed it or haven't followed it, the biggest change is the Attorney General Jeff Landry came up with a legal opinion that the LHSAA is comfortable with now. They They were never going to do a waiver. And Eddie Bonine has been very clear from the beginning that he does not want to put any LHSA member schools, and that includes not just principals, but in school districts themselves and the superintendent in any kind of harm's way in terms of legality or litigation. But this is one they were comfortable with, and it's interpreted off the strength of a law called Act 336. It's similar to Act 9 that I've written about, that shields schools districts from COVID liability if they were following the proper protocols. And what's going on now is this with this Act 33, Jeff Landry, the AG, has basically said you're protected under this, regardless of, I won't say regardless of what you do, but it gives them more free reign to have a season and not be bound by the governor's phases, which, regardless of what he says, and he has said this in the past week, which was shocking to me. If you go to opensafelylouisiana.gov and read, contact sports were prohibited in phase 2. Football is a contact sport. And I know people like to make that joke, well, it's a collision sport because of what NFL films told you, but you know what I mean. And for him to come out and say, well, nothing's come out of our office about football. Yes, it has. So that's what that is. But now the next hurdle they're going to have to clear is capacity. How many people are going to be in these stadiums? Because if you saw the new phase 3 ordinances that came out late last week, football outdoor stadiums are at 25%, and that applies to not just high schools but colleges too.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it makes you kind of wonder. I don't think that the governor set out to stick it, because that's the popular conspiracy theory right now I've seen peddled, is the governor wants to stick it to the LHSAA and high school sports. Well, if he was really going to do that, he wouldn't have put a stadium cap out there that applied to everyone. It would just apply to high school sports. So I don't really see it being that. But at the same time, you look at some of this stuff and it does make you wonder. We can cram 75% into restaurants and be in there, and God forbid when the college bars open. That's terrifying to think what's going to be happening in there, even at 75% capacity. But the gist of it is, for some reason, we're cool with 75% capacity in a confined quarters restaurant, but in a stadium that seats, upwards of 10,000, we got to have 25%. So, I mean, I guess I get the whole no tailgating thing, but that's going to be the next thing is capacity. And our mutual friend Shelby Ainsworth, I mean, go with God, man. I don't know what to tell you as far as trying to enforce that at West Monroe, because who, buddy?
Not going to be able to keep the locals out of there. And it's insane, I'm sure. They're rebel football, so.
Well, yeah, you're there every Friday, I do think, though, and I talked to a couple principals about this late last week because they had questions, and then I called a few folks down in Baton Rouge. And I'm and now here's the thing to remember. Because you hear this, we've heard this since even before the mask mandate, but very in the beginning, people want to shout, the governor's guidelines ain't a law. Well, neither is the Attorney General's legal opinion. Excuse me, my leather lung voice, it got me today. But the legal opinion from the Attorney General that we're basing on to play football isn't a law either. So you need to understand what those two pieces are. I mean, there's still a potential for possible litigation, even with an opinion that the LHSAA is comfortable with. But that opinion should also apply to stadium capacity, since this is the one that that the LHSAA felt comfortable with moving forward with the season. So it's kind of a one size fits all type thing. But ultimately, there's going to be local municipalities and cities, towns, villages, whatever, villages. What's up, Mangum? We love you. They're going to have the final say on what they're comfortable with doing, and then it's going to be up to the superintendents and other similar governing bodies at non-public schools to decide what they want to do, and that's where this is going to go. So, ultimately we have to get there, and I'm sure we're going to have to know soon about capacity, because a week from Friday we're going to be at a scrimmage.
Yeah. And I have no idea what it's going to look like.
I guess we're supposed to.
I have no idea what it looks like.
I think we're supposed to be in the end zone. They're going to put us in the end zone. which is going to be cool when they're coming towards us, and it's going to be really, really bad when they're going the other way.
God bless the Jumbotron at Rebel Stadium.
Well, and now that Neville and Ruston both have them, I mean, that kind of makes life easier. Maybe we can get one at the old Lions Den. I think Washington needs one too. But speaking of prep football, I guess we should let the folks know we're going to start rolling out a bunch of prep content this week. Get that going since we have a start date, we have targets, we know where they're going, and we've got a lot of cool storylines to look at. You've got some. You've got some kids that are making some noise. One of them's already committed. OCS quarterback Hunter Herring. He came out of nowhere and was an absolute beast last season, and they're going to be trying to defend their state championship. Then our boy Bull Contravian Hargrove out at Ruston. His recruiting has picked up steadily, which led him to decommit from Louisiana Tech. And Ruston's got a chance to have a really good year, I think, in that district. And then we've got some new head coaches, Jeff Tannehill at Neville. And then, Sonny Nason's back in the area, longtime Brad Bradshaw assistant at Bastrop. He's the new head coach at Franklin Parish. And then, Coach Pollard out at Waspin taking over that program. So a lot of cool stuff going on. I'm also going to try to get to River Oaks at some point because they're about to take that maiden voyage into the LHSAA, and that's something we don't see a lot. I think it'd be really cool. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited to finally get this, the high school stuff going, man. It's, usually for us, it's kind of, it's the gateway drug into football season, right? We usually get high school football before we get college football. It's 2020, right? We've got 2 weeks of college football before we touched high school football. So if there's anything that's a microcosm of what this year's been like so far, it's certainly that point. So yeah, I think I can speak for you, Adam, when I say I think we're excited about being able to get back and see a lot of our friends on the high school side and getting back and into these practices and getting back around those kids and their coaching staffs and ultimately getting to the games. I think one of the things we look forward to every year is the West Monroe Neville games and the Baby Bayou Classic and these big local high school games that mean so much to these communities. And for a long time, there was just so much uncertainty around it. And are we going to get these things? These really big local events that matter to so many people that live around here. And now we know that we're going to get them. And I know there's a lot of excitement surrounding that. So I know we're excited to be able to continue to tell these stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess this is the point we should probably, before we wrap up, is tell everybody what we got going on this week. What are you rolling out content-wise?
Sure. Obviously staying on top of the Louisiana Tech situation, monitoring it as often as closely as I can. Is when I have updates, everyone else will be updated. And then obviously, like you mentioned, we're going to have, our first round of high school content that's coming out this week, and trying to get everybody ready for the upcoming high school football season. And then hopefully Louisiana Tech's playing a football game on Saturday. Hopefully the rivalry in Dixie will take place this weekend, and if so, I'll be eyeballs deep in it. So it's going to be a busy week. It's going to be I think there's still going to be some adjustment. When we're going to practice, how we're going to practice, are we going to be allowed to be at practice? All these things that we're continually to have to deal with. So I do anticipate there's going to be, some changes to what we are able to put out on my end this week. So I know you've mentioned a couple of things you've got going on. Anything else you maybe haven't mentioned yet that folks should be on the lookout this week?
Well, we'll be talking to Matt Viator tomorrow in his weekly press. We'll have some stuff coming out of it, and see what we get with a depth chart and address list. I mean, I think that's kind of going to be the thing with ULM and Tech going forward. Is that's how we're going to know who can and can't play with everything that's going on, and really just like I said earlier, I think it's a from a morale standpoint, I think it's a really big game for ULM, and and just on the administrative side, You almost got some stuff to figure out about hosting a home game. Like, how are you going to do that? What's that going to look like? I'm going to have some stuff on it too. And like I said, it's going to be a busy week, but it's going to be a fun week. And maybe we'll both be sitting in a press box in front of a football game if all goes as planned. But as far as these shows, we're going to try to record these on Sundays and have them up for y'all on Monday to enjoy, kind of set the table for the week and see how that goes. But again, this is the Local Player Show. You can find it on our YouTube channel at New Star Sports is our YouTube channel, and email us. We want some feedback. Email us at newstarsports@gmail.com, and depending on how that goes, we will start reading those. Just use some common sense. Be civil. Don't be don't be quite as depraved as I know you can be. Because this is, I don't know. Is this a family show? Have we decided yet?
I don't think we've decided yet. We hadn't petitioned the FCC for a rating or anything. So right now we're non-rated as far as
not safe for work. But as you can tell, we're just getting started here. Maybe a little bare bone now, but we're going to be building on this going forward. And looking forward to creating this content and bring it to you. But that's all I got, Cory. So if you want to wrap this thing up, let's do it.
Yeah, I just want to say appreciate those who decided to view in. Thanks for viewing in. And like Adam said, it's going to be a weekly thing. So we always want to keep you guys as up to date as we are about the things that you have questions about and that matter to you most in regards to your favorite team, whether it be on the college level or even on the high school level. So we're really looking forward to really getting the ball rolling on this on the local players and look to become a place that you guys come to for for stupid banter about things and maybe get laughs along the way and maybe some some opinions and things on certain situations that you haven't maybe even thought about. So we just appreciate you all for tuning in, for going to thenewsstar.com and continuing to consume the content that we generate, and just many thanks.
Subscribe, get you a digital subscription. We got to eat.
We got ink.
we got to eat.
We have internet ink.
On that, I'm done if you are. So let's get out of here.